Good morning. For the first day in a long time. Don't feel like watching from the sidelines.
Welcome to the Core Conversations podcast by Ampelis, where our goal is to help you fuel, use, and rest your bodies in ways that unlock its innate abilities for physical and mental health. My name is Robbie Harmon, and I'll be your host. Welcome to our first episode of Core Conversations. My name is Robbie Harmon, and I'm the president of a company called Ampelis. This first episode really is about laying a foundation for what we hope to do with this medium, to communicate, to share insights, to bring on interesting stories, to help people have actionable insights into really improving their lives in meaningful ways. So let me start by just telling a little bit about Ampelis, and then we'll jump into conversations, introduce each of you, and have some fun, I hope. So Ampelis, our company, has been committed over the last 6-7 years and beyond to really helping reverse the trend of emotional and mental fragility in the world. And that's taken us down some interesting roads. But in its purest form today, we basically are focused on creating evidence-based solutions and offerings that are helping people to really live their fullest potential. And a lot of that, we'll use that word innate, I think, a lot in these conversations, but we believe that a lot of our potential, the challenges that we're dealing with our health physically, our health mentally, the solutions are innate within us if we can just somehow unlock them. And we want to have a lot of actionable insights into that very topic. So we do our work, though, at Ampelis through a network of clinical, patient-centered clinical centers, patient care centers, outpatient care centers throughout the state of Utah. We have educational offerings where we engage people and share insights and information about various topics related to these very issues. And then we're creating solutions and products, services to help people implement those ideas. And we'll talk more about what those are. So with that foundation, it's been an interesting road to get here, and hopefully some of that will come out in this conversation to talk about how we got to where we are. But let me first introduce just who's with us today. First is Lon Henderson, Tana Fox, and Kim Stoddard. Lon is the founder and CEO of Ampelis. He's got a background in investment management, finance, entrepreneurship, and the list goes on, but just a lifelong commitment to service, generosity, both community service, church service. He's kind of the OG of creating family culture, which is where the company started. And 6 children, an amazing spouse, and 25 grandchildren.
26 and 2 in the oven. I'm going to count everyone.
So 26, 28.
Soon to be
on
28
the
in the next couple months.
So Lon, it's just been an amazing collaborator and supporter of all the things that we're going to talk about today.
Thank you.
Tana Fox, owner and founder of Live Right Nutrition, and you're going to have to make sure I get this right. Okay. International Sports Certified Nutritionist.
Correct.
Is that
Nailed
correct?
It. Yeah.
Okay. And Tana, active nutrition coach for people. She's a frequent participant and guest on podcasts, television shows, etc. on these topics. She's been an advisor and a coach and co-creator with us at Ampelis in a number of different ways. Tana is mother of 4 all of them teenagers at this point?
Almost. I got an 11-year-old.
Okay,
yeah.
So almost 4 teenagers.
Mm-hmm. Preteen.
Amazing family, and grateful for all Tana does. Kim Stoddard, I'll introduce Kim last. Kim has been a colleague of ours at Ampelis. She's been here longer than I have, but entrepreneur. She's a creator. She's a certified positive psychology coach. She's a mindfulness coach as well. She is a farmer from Grace, Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
And Kim
I'm a
just
farmer's wife.
Farmer's wife.
I'm still learning the farming part.
But so many of the good things that we've been able to do that have gone from ideas to actual usable products, Kim has had her hands all over those at Ampelis. So we're just grateful for Kim. Mother to four amazing kids, 3 girls and 1 boy. And all of them are amazing. And that's a reflection, I think, of Kim and Jason, her husband. So that's who we have today. And we're going to dive into some conversation that I hope is a good foundation for what we want to do together on this podcast.
Great.
Lon, I want to start with you because you've been at this the longest. A lot of this is the fruition of some of your ideas and energy and investment and commitment. So tell us how a company, Ampelis, which really was started by you out of your investment advisory business, as a company designed to help pass on values and culture within high net worth families. How did a company that started there end up in the mental health and nutrition space?
Well, the question kind of makes it sound like I've lost my mind. You know? But it started with working with these wonderful families and high net worth individuals who were actually running corporations, who had done such a marvelous job at growing wealth. And I kind of got very excited because I love this industry as far as asset management. I loved what it could do if you were successful, how you could bless the world. I was kind of more intense in how you could bless the world than actually the asset management side, but I love the asset management. But what I found was when they succeeded, and through that process of succeeding, what it takes to succeed in anything. Absolutely, 24/7 focus. And what often was lost was that next, or sometimes the third generational focus. And so I watched where assets or riches, were sometimes the focus, and it sometimes corrupted or ruined or somehow affected that third generation. So that was the beginning. It was rags to riches in 3 generations. And it was a generational challenge that exists all over the world today. And it not only can really possess me with my focus, but it came into my own home. So as I watched that happen, I kind of got to the point where I thought we could create a program. I actually did some things down in Texas, a couple universities that were really big into this, and worked hard to figure out how can we aid these really wonderful, successful people to perpetuate the success beyond just a few generations. And if you can do that, how we could change the world. So that was the story. That's what we did. And then started finding that, and I have to say it was greatly because of Robbie's influence and Kim's influence and others, that although we could put together an infrastructure that included helping them discover their values, create a culture around those values so it could be perpetuated, we started to see that there were barriers. And some of those barriers literally dealt with basically not only the communication, but some of the conditions that were the result of that wealth. You may know that there's entitlement that starts to take place. Sometimes they're coddling these children. Sometimes they're scared to really be, hard on those parents, to bring up hard things and to do hard things, I should say, on the children, not the parents. And so those things would create other behaviors. One of the behavior was, of course, addiction. And so as we began to define what we would call meaning and how meaning is actually created and perpetuated in any culture, specifically in an individual themselves, we started seeing this one opportunity of addiction recovery to be just a really neat thing we could do. We found a great piece of property. It had all the elements to be holistic. It had the corrals, it had the pools, it had places where they could go and work, it had gardens. It was magical. It was a magical time where we went and began to dive deeply into this methodology of turning around or helping people come from an addictive environment or addictive challenges and start to awaken. And the awakening was a big passion of what we were doing. He was very successful. Successful in that we really came up with some great models. It only lasted, Robbie, 2.5 years. And to me, the greatest success was that the tradition, I should say the history, or I think the traditional addiction recovery has success rate measured by sobriety 1 year out, about 16-17%. So you can see how many times probably people go through an addiction recovery program. Ours was basically about 70%. We were north of 70%.
Wow.
So we were knocking it out of the park, but we almost got black eyes from it, because we were there all the time. We were constantly there working with only 4 to 6 people. And it got to a point where we said, wow, how can we scale this further? How can we touch more people than just maybe 4 to 6 people every 4 or 5 months? And that's where the outpatient clinics became an issue.
Maybe before we move on from the addiction recovery,
please.
I think that was such an important chapter in this whole journey for us, because it was so hands-on and we were there, and there was so much learning that I think has become foundational now to what we're doing. Is you can share a little bit more of the journey now from that point forward. But I think one of the interesting themes that will probably come up in these conversations in this podcast is that I think we sometimes innovation and impact is stifled by what the industry will pay for, or insurance will pay for, or how people are trained in their education, that dates back decades. And so as we approached that addiction recovery program, I think part of the reason it was successful is because we intentionally said, we're going to create value and solutions regardless of what insurance will pay for. We're just going to figure out what works. We're going to get the best science, the best people, and we're going to make a business out of it that will help people. And we'll figure out the whole insurance question and all these other things later. That proved to be a challenge in that case. But I think foundationally, what we learned and now the journey that's taken us on has been really impactful.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. What's that saying? It's easy to make a small fortune when you start with a large fortune. And we had to burn through some large fortune with all of us. I mean, everybody was working at 25% of their pay scale and giving up great opportunities. But the idea was, what works? What works? I'm so possessed. I'm so desirous to help behavioral change occur. I mean, you got to change, and change has to start right at the very beginning, right? And it's right in the heart. If we can change hearts, change behavior, you can just have such an impact. And by the way, insurance doesn't usually pay for changing behavior. It pays for treating behavior and for treating the problem versus coming to the core. So from there, outpatient clinics, and then take us to the current. Yeah, outpatient clinics. And as we were now, I guess, getting our third, looking now at maybe potentially the fourth, up and down the Wasatch Front, there was again started to be this vertical that began to just be visual in front of us. And that was, although we're now dealing with addiction, not addiction, but anxiety and depression. And we use a technology called transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS is the acronym. We're still doing marvelous things in that space in the clinics, but there was something that continued to come and pop to the top. And that basically was nutrition. And the idea was the connection between nutrition and the brain is undeniable, undeniable. And so, we live in this community where a lot of people are in nutritions. I mean, we get mocked for being in the country, in the land of lotions and potions, I think they say.
We live in Utah.
Yeah.
We live in Utah. Yeah. And so,
I actually live in Idaho. But
Oh, yeah. Kim lives in Idaho.
I used to live in Idaho. But, really nutrition. But what we ended up discovering is there were a lot of nutritional products, but we believe in the innate ability and the innate features of the human, of the body. And that there are things that if we do it just right, this body is amazing. It can heal itself.
So true.
It can do things that shock science for how long. So if we could create something that actually was truly nutritional, that truly affected this body, we could have an impact in our corner of the world, on the world. And what we led to, I know you can get to with these
we'll get to
brighter
that a little
people,
bit deeper.
is really how we found what that construction of that ingredient really is, which I'm just fired up to sit here and be a participant by listening.
So from focusing on the family, which really kind of is the epicenter of really our happiness or our misery in many cases, and also where all this stuff happens, it kind of led to the discovery of some barriers that weren't being addressed effectively, which set the company on a path to treating addiction, to working with depression and anxiety, to now approaching those challenges with a nutritional product that didn't exist before. So
that's the journey. And I said to Robbie the other day, if you had orchestrated this, it would have been impossible.
Yeah,
totally.
There was no way to orchestrate this. We had to go from one learning to another learning to another learning to finally to where we're going. And that's kind of the beauty.
So here we sit now, and we're, some of these things are happening in real time. This podcast, though, is this first episode. So I'd love to ask Kim the question about what our hopes really are for this. Why are we creating a podcast? Because Kim works with us at Ampelis, obviously, but there are some really excellent sources of information out there, great conversations by really smart people. So why are we creating another one, and what do we hope to accomplish with it?
Yeah. So Lon talked so much about change. We've talked about this over and over again in our company is we want to be the catalyst for change. We want people to come to Ampelis and experience something different, because you listen to podcasts all the time. Like we all listen to all kinds of podcasts on all kinds of topics, which are incredible. But how often are we really changing because of the information that we're taking in? And as we have gone through this journey of trying to help people change, we really came to understand some core principles that create not just a change for the week, but lasting change, not just in yourself, but also in your atmosphere and the people around you. And so, we've integrated those into everything that we do, whether it's the clinics, whether it's the workshops, and now hoping to integrate that same philosophy of little by little, a little becomes a lot. And we can facilitate that in everything that we do. If we can really help to clarify for people, what is that next step? What is just that next little thing that I have to do to change my life? Because when they see that progress, they begin to be open to hope. They begin to see a vision for who they can be. And instead of like, oh, I've tried, I've listened to all the podcasts, I've read all the books, I've done all the things, and I'm the same that I was 5 years ago. They come into, I've seen it time and time again in the mindfulness workshop, in the nutrition workshop, where they're like, oh my goodness, I had lemon water. That's all I've done this whole week, but I feel so much better. Like, really? That's it? Like this
Tana's
little
changing
thing?
people's lives one
lemon
lemon
at a
at a
time.
time.
Half a lemon, everyone. Half a lemon.
Half a lemon.
And I only take half a lemon. I'm glad you said it's half a lemon.
Yes, or like 5 minutes
Yeah.
outside, just breathing, just noticing my breath has completely transformed how I feel throughout the day. And then they have this like light in their eyes and they're like, I can do this. And then it's just incremental, little by little. And it is so exciting to experience with them and to experience for ourselves. But I think that this podcast, we're really trying to create that every episode of what can I do now that I've understood this principle or this truth. Like, what is it that I can change in my life? And we're really aiming to make it really sustainable and simple. And so I'm super excited.
And that really is representative of the work that Ampelis has done over the last, at least since I've been here, 6 years this month, or last month. It's been taking ideas, the best emerging literature, books, and turning that into simple, usable frameworks and products and solutions so people can actually implement stuff, not just passively listen to it and not change anything. So I'm similarly excited. I hope that because there's so much good information out there, and my hope for this conversation and this podcast simply is that every time somebody leaves with a very tangible, actionable takeaway that they can implement in their life and improve their life in some way.
Yeah.
Your point there is so interesting too, because along this journey, we have had products that we have created that if I wasn't suffering from, some of these focus issues, we could have stayed right there and just had really, really good businesses. But we've known it wasn't really to get the greatest reach. And so we've continued. So this is a great format to start to share some of those
conversations
great
and learnings,
principles, doctrines,
Expanding.
information.
Yeah.
I love that you said that like anybody can do it because you listen to some podcast. Okay, now I have to go buy the red light and I have to go get a sauna and I have to go do all these things. But like, I live on a farm in the middle of nowhere. There's no gym. There's no, like, the nearest Costco is an hour away. And I take Tana's workshop and I can make those changes. I don't need to buy anything. I don't need to go, I'm just like changing my mindset about these truths, and it's totally transformational. And so that's what I love about Ampelis is it is this, anybody can do it. Anyone can join in and jump in and start to see change.
Well, and I think there's something about it that feels familiar already because it's already innate in us. Like you were saying before, we'll use that word a lot, but it's so true. It shouldn't be this foreign subject. It shouldn't feel like it's this out of reach scientific concept to understand. It should feel natural. It should feel exciting, and it should feel easy. And I think that's what I love so much about Ampelis, and hearing the story and hearing and seeing all the passion is because I think everybody also wants to experience that, but we don't know where to start. And so it should feel exciting and easy and simple. And that is exactly what I think we're trying to accomplish here at Ampelis and with the podcast, is just taking these little bite-sized pieces and applying them in practical daily situations of what it will look like.
Love it.
So Tana, you came into the picture, we'll call it one of those divine intersections when we needed somebody that possessed both the knowledge, but also the energy and personality to be able to convey ideas and get people excited about them in a meaningful way. We were introduced to you. You've been now just instrumental in helping us, create products, create information, workshops, and other things. But I would love to hear, because you've been at this in the middle of these kind of conversations about nutrition and helping people with change through nutrition for a long time. I'd love to just hear a little by little. We call it little by little. Little becomes a lot. It's a saying that Lon picked up a long time ago.
So good.
But if you can think of or share any stories where you've seen people take some of these ideas in nutrition and make little changes and see significant improvement in their life.
It's everywhere and every day. And I think my favorite times that I see it are the least expected times, because when someone does decide to kind of make a change and they see someone they aspire to be or something that they really want to acquire, whether it's a skill, a physique, a new mindset, sometimes that goal can be overwhelming. And then they think that that's just the thing that needs to keep their motivation, is keep your eyes on the goal. But when we take a step back and stop focusing on the result and start to look at the routine instead, what's going to get me there? What's going to set my stage for the rest of my life? How that actually is what creates the change. It's the little by little, the step by step. So again, it can come at so many angles. Like Kim mentioned, the lemon water is one of the easiest things. And I think, this nutrition workshop that we run is about 6 weeks. And I'm amazed that even by week 3 or 4, how many messages I get of like, oh, I have a lot more energy in the afternoon just by simply adding water, a big glass of water to your morning, adding a little bit of lemon in it. And then next thing you know, when you start to feel that energy, you're more inclined to be like, well, should I pick this, reheated burrito out of the freezer for lunch, or should I just make myself a quick sandwich? So sometimes those shifts just happen without even really intentionally trying to. They lead one to another when you start to just see it as a daily routine versus this goal that we have to grind and reach and get more discipline to acquire. There's multiple experiences like that with lemon water, but I also think there's some too, just with like, hey, I'm going to pick an apple today instead of a bag of chips. Little by little, next thing you know, that apple swapped out for a bag of chips leading to like, oh, I'm going to actually add a little bit more protein to my dinner because I've heard about that. That's easy. And so tiny little things like that are what I feel like make the bigger changes. And again, it's not even like it's this awful disciplined, I've got to prepare so much to do this, but it just starts to happen because they feel the excitement, because they feel a little. What actually happens is the action creates momentum. Sometimes we think that we have to wait to be, receive motivation. But really, if you just take a step back and do one small thing, then momentum starts to come, and then momentum can carry you even further. So I don't know. I think I
love what you're saying. One of our former teammates he was a licensed therapist, PhD therapist, level therapist, and he would talk about behavioral activation. And so often people just need to just get some momentum, and it will start to cascade. And it, so we kind of take in our conversations more of like an integrative health approach, or integrative health and wellness approach. And when you say that word, really it means an acknowledgement that all of our different body systems are connected. If we're dealing with mental health issues and our brain isn't quite functioning the way it was designed to, perhaps it's related to what's happening in our gut, or what's happening with our cardiovascular health, or other things. That's when we say integrative health, that's what we mean, is that acknowledgement that all these different body systems are connected. Yeah. The energy source that all of them are powered by happens to be driven by what we put in our bodies.
You are what you eat.
Yeah.
Very literally.
Yeah. And I remember one time having a conversation with our chief medical officer, and I was frustrated because I wanted them to engage more deeply in nutrition, or help patients more immediately engage in nutrition and sleep and exercise. And she's like, Robbie, they literally can't. They're not there yet. And I was so frustrated because I'm thinking behavioral activation. They just need to start and create momentum. But then I learned through subsequent study that literally some of these people don't have the energy at the cellular level to power their body and the brain to even think and function, to get them up off the couch to start moving, or to motivate them to go shop for the right foods. Like literally we have to somehow aid them in getting that right foundational energy source through nutrition and other things, so they can start to engage in some of these other lifestyle factors that will bless their lives and help them overcome some of the challenges they're dealing with. I'd love, Kim, another question here. You've worked with Tana on some of these workshops, designing curriculum. You've done others in mindfulness and other topics. I'd love to just hear your reflections on what have you learned about helping people make lifestyle behavior changes that sometimes are really hard. We read and talk about a lot and we don't make changes, but just any insights that you've gained in helping people navigate that process and in designing some of these curriculums.
Yeah. So a lot of times at Ampelis, we say, we start with the end in mind. And when we're thinking about creating a workshop, we really do say, what do we want these people to feel? What do we want them, what can we expand in their mind, or what limiting beliefs do they maybe have that we can break for them? And I was just thinking of one of the clients messaged, and she was so excited because she had lifted 30-pound dumbbells. And she was like, that never even crossed my mind until Tana was like, grab the 30s. And I was like, can I do that? And she did. And it's like, there's so many things that we just haven't been exposed to. So many things that I could never do that. Or that you just it doesn't even come to mind. And so as we're creating our workshops, we really think about that. Like, what is it that we can unleash within these people, this innate potential within them? But we have found over and over again that it has to be simple. It has to, yes, we start with the end in mind. We give them hope for this amazing person that they're going to become, that they already are. But then we say, okay, you have that vision. You have that vision in your mind, but we're going to do it step by step. We're going to take a little bite, a little bit here, a little bit there. And so when we're creating these workshops, we really try to make it very applicable for anyone. And I think that really is what sets us apart from a lot of times when you take a course or something like that and it feels like a fire hose.
Or it's pre-recorded and you just kind of gobble up so much information. It's really hard to act on.
Yes. And that's the other thing that's unique about our workshops is that it's with real people. Not only do you have this amazing instructor who has so much energy and passion, but you also have a cohort of people that are doing it with you. And so when Susan is picking up the 30s, you're like, maybe I'll pick up the 30s at the gym next time, and or doing her lemon water or trying kombucha or whatever it is. It really creates the most fun energy. And we do live classes, so you can get your, when you have a question about, well, should I drink my lemon water or should I do this first? We have Tana right there. You can put your questions in live and get answers. And so it really does facilitate, this community of growth. And I think that is really unique about Ampelis, where we take vision, actionable steps, and we create a community to support you as well.
I love that. One of the frameworks that we've conceived of over the years is that change journey really starts with vision, and then you've got to help people through some reflection and other things, create self-awareness about where do you stand relative to that vision, and turn that into then some goals and action plans, and then create encouragement and accountability through the community. And it's really been, I think of one of the testimonials, and they just talked, I think it was one from Tana's class, where somebody said, or workshop, where somebody said, I've listened to so many podcasts and read so many books, and I'm actually now doing something about the stuff I'm learning. Like, it's so refreshing. So I just love it. And we'll come back to that because that will play a role in what we're trying to create with this, even the nutrition offering, is give people access to that kind of support. So this is more than, it's not about selling a supplement. We didn't even start with that
so far away
end in mind.
Oh my.
Yeah, we started down that journey just trying to find stuff that we could recommend to people and figuring out where's their evidence-based formulations and combinations of different supplements that we could recommend to people, and ultimately came to the conclusion we need to create our own and surround it with this ecosystem where people can have access to support who are users of this, what we hope is really impactful nutritional product for people. I'd love to go there. Maybe we start with Tana and then Lon. Just what are some of the things that really prompted us to go down that journey? You've been recommending, different supplement protocols, nutritional protocols for people for a long time. What made you feel excited about the idea that maybe there's something else that we could create that would even be better? And then Lon, I'd love to hear you add on to that.
Okay, love to.
It's interesting because one of the most common questions I get is, okay, which supplement should I take? And what are the best brands?
Mm-hmm.
And then do I have to take all of them? We are constantly
So many.
bombarded by ads, right? Sources of information.
One of our other advisors sent us the picture, and he had, I think it was
Yeah.
35
Oh.
35
supplement
Yeah.
bottles.
And I mean, that's probably
His
still only a
morning, midday,
fifth of what
evening
he's been
protocol.
tried to be sold to,
Yeah.
I mean, it is so hard to know which one's right for which individual. But there are some that are tried and true and tested that really do make an impact for everybody. Everybody will have a different journey in their health, and everybody will acquire their own goals in their own way, but there are scientifically proven some basics. And so I think trying to figure out what's the best quality and what are the most minimally effective, right? The ones you can take without trying to take the entire medicine cabinet. And it's been so exciting because as we've gone down this route together, all of us really navigating, okay, we want quality first and foremost. We want things that are not synthetic. We want things that have the actual value in them with the cofactors and the enzymes that we've been learning so much about. That, above all, I think quality is really what's the most important to put into your body, because when we take care of our body in a way that is high quality and that does have meaning behind every ounce of it, you increase your capacity. Sometimes cheap things you put in your body, like fast food and things like that are cheap, they're going to give you cheap outputs, right? They're going to give you a cheap result. And so quality first and foremost, I think, is the number one thing that I know, have been striving for together as we've gone down this. And then, of course, just the most effective, because there really are. You can take this, and what about this? And okay, let's add this one over here. Well, this will help, but what really is going to make a difference? And so that's been probably the most magical part about this entire process of this supplement is that these are the most effective that will help the broadest population achieve everything they want to achieve. I mean, it's the best of the best with the most effective doses and ingredients. So
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
Lon, what made you excited about going down that journey?
I'm not the chemist. Of course, I'm not the formulator. I know nothing. I all these new ingredients and supplements will be coming to me, and I'm studying where are they, why do they work, and I mean, I'm finance. I don't know anything about medicine, but you're all the brainiacs. But I'll just say some things that just really rang so true. Okay, first is I've been around stuff that's made in a test tube, and I've seen. On the business side, what people will do to create a yield, to get an ROI, a return on investment. I don't know how hard they'll push. And I know the difference between eating an apple and taking a supplement, or going up somewhere in, back east and having a blueberry, right on an island where there are fresh blueberries, and what that actually feels versus a supplement or a synthetic. And what really resonated with me is that there is a difference. And so everyone kind of would know our journey. We started with a company that we're really impressed with in Canada. Then we found another company that had science on organics and whole food. And we've been led down this journey to say there is a difference with this phytonutrient that, really coming to the essence of an actual plant or a fruit or a vitamin, whatever where it's coming from, than doing a synthetic. And it just not only rang so true to me, but I'd experienced myself. Plus, I wasn't a farmer's son, but I was part of a farmer's son when I was 14. We bought a ranch and a farm, and I would see chemicals and things that would enhance, all the yield. And I thought, what is that doing? I didn't think about it until years later, but what it's doing to the soils. Is there really, truly ingredients that are more powerful and more pure than other ingredients? And so we've been on a journey. Our journey's taken us to Denmark and India and all over the world to find these whole food, completely authentic. And this is not a sales pitch. This is saying something you could just literally eat, and to put that in a formulation that would benefit at the most, the smallest level, which is that cellular level, is just really, really exciting. So I got excited to think that we're creating something different. It's not just
it's not been done before.
It's never been done. This has never been done. So
and that's been the reception of people in the industry. Going to conferences and stuff. People are saying, "Wow, and this is amazing."
All of this in one product.
And then we say, "Why hasn't anybody done this?" And that's a question. And there's
some of them say, "How can you do this? It's so expensive." And going back to the origin of our company, the concept is, I know it's going to be more expensive. We're just going to have smaller margins.
Yeah.
But what they're taking is so different.
And they'll feel it. That's the best part is they don't even have to take our word for it, because the second you start to put in the quality into your body can tell a difference.
Yeah.
Massively.
Yeah. People have said, one, it's because it's too expensive. And two is because when they see what we've created, instead of, like, I'm thinking of our addiction recovery program, we would have people taking 5 or 6 different supplements, and they'd have their little pill box, and they have to take this in the morning and this at lunch and this in the evening. And then that's like when you're recommending things to people, I'm sure it's like, you got to get this magnesium and this vitamin D and these omegas and all over. And then it's hard for people. That's really hard. And so, but from a business perspective, companies can see that, I've got 6 products. I can sell somebody 6 times. And so the reasons we've discovered people haven't done this, one is because it's expensive. It takes a lot of time and energy. It's complicated. But the other issue is they can sell 5 or 6 products instead of selling 1 and make more money. Yeah. And so it's an interesting challenge. But as we went down, as we started down this path, I got excited. We came up with the name Core 7. I think it was Lon's idea, or maybe it was Tana's idea about 7, because there were 7 categories of benefit.
We were going 2 directions. One was core and the other was 7.
Yeah. And then Lon brought them together and said Core 7.
Perfect.
But really, and then at the time I wrote down, well, really there was 7 things that we were trying to think about when we were trying to create something for people. And that was, I wrote it down here, had to be an all-in-one supplement. So let's simplify this for people. So it's everything in one place. The second, had to be easy to consume. So it was not burdensome where you got to swallow 6 different pills, and my kids can't swallow some of the big caps, still, they don't like that. And then it had to be enjoyable. So it had to taste good. It had to be whole food based, because this whole idea of synthetic isolates versus whole foods with all the cofactors. We'll get into that at some point, but it had to have relevant doses instead of sprinkling stuff so you could put it on the label. It had to have relevant doses that we knew would impact people. So that's 5. 6, it had to be less costly than purchasing all of these things together. And 7th was, it had to be family friendly, so it could help kids and adults. It could be one thing.
Part.
That is.
And so that was really been what we've tried to discover and create, and I'm excited for that to be available for people here in the next month or so.
And Robbie, to put an exclamation point on kind of the review of those 7 points, although it's hitting the cells and it's doing all the things we want to do, that's not really what it's about. But that's the gateway we have to go through to allow people to experience real change. Yeah. They have to. We were meeting with our clinicians the other day. I mean, our providers, and we were in our clinic. And I asked the question. I said, of all the things of verticals that you experience, as far as this person's dealing with depression or anxiety, what is kind of at the very top? And I said, I'm going to kind of help you. Where is actually nutrition? And they looked at each other and said, 75, 85% of all of the people who walk in the door are deficient. Yeah. With nutrition.
Well, the statistics say that 95% of Americans have at least a nutrient deficiency. Yeah. In one area.
Yeah. And that's just deficient to not be optimal. In the negative, optimal. Yeah. I mean, we have to talk about optimal even getting to be sufficient so we can actually regenerate and create and expand. Yeah. That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah. And that you think that's obvious because 90% don't take enough vegetables, 88% don't take enough fruit, and 75% don't get enough sleep. Yep. Yeah. So you add up those factors and it's obvious.
So maybe that's a good question though to go to for Kim. So we've obviously spent a bunch of time trying to help people and design products and services to help people engage in lifestyle and behavior change, which is hard. Like this whole self-help world, right? It's like a multi-billion dollar industry, and it never goes away because people just are consuming and not getting the answers. If it was solving the problem, maybe it wouldn't be such a big industry. But what role will that part of our business, the nutrition workshops, the drop-ins, and just talk about how that's going to be part of what we do to try to help people as they're entering in through the gateway of nutrition.
So, I mean, I have to tell a little story because my daughter, my 9-year-old daughter, she'll be 9 at the end of the month. 8-year-old, she broke her arm on Friday. So she was doing crazy stuff on her bike, broke her arm, and she when we got her home, they have her in a splint, and the next morning she wakes up and she's like, "Oh, Mom, I need my core. I got to heal my bones." And I was like, and she's actually, my kids, it really does taste amazing. And I make sure they have it at least 3 times a week because, they're busy and whatever, but I make sure. And she's like, "Mom, I got to have it every day. I got to heal my bones." And I just thought, like, isn't that amazing to see her intuitive, like, oh, I'm not going to take, I don't know how else she would have thought of it, but like, I got to get my core because I got to heal my bones. And I just love that story because it shows you that when we can teach our children that what you're putting inside your body is really important, they then look at the world in a different way. They look at what is being offered to them in a different way to say, what is this going to do? I mean, they always are talking to Alexa. Alexa, what do blueberries do for my body? Alexa, what
Those are the best questions.
I know.
But they should be asking.
But I'm like, I never asked those questions as a kid.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing them take this knowledge in and say, and look at the world differently to say, how are these things affecting me? And I think not only, hopefully they're seeing this in what they're eating, but hopefully they're also seeing it in the things that they're viewing, in the things that they're listening to, in the thoughts that they're having, in the atmosphere that surrounds them. I think that this then takes it to another level. And that's really what we're creating here at Ampelis is an ecosystem. Mm-hmm. It's a system that we can touch the body, the mind, and the spirit so that we can have places where our people come and feel safe to say, I need help here, or I need help here. And I know that I can go to Ampelis because it is truth. And they're not going to layer it with all kinds of other things, but it's just direct from the source, good research, good people making real change. And I love, Lon often says, work works. And we don't shy away from that. We don't tell you, take core and all your problems are going to be solved. Because if
I tell people that.
It's kind of partly true a little bit, but yeah, I'm kidding.
But you can't take core and then go fill your body and mind with junk, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so we're saying
it's one part
this
of a
is
puzzle.
a really important part, but guess what? We have other pieces that are going to help you create that lasting change.
So that's what I get excited about.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and Kim, it's sometimes we get talking about core, and I just want to be level set here. If we had found a product that had done what we wanted, we don't want to. I wouldn't want to create it.
Yeah.
And if we're finding other truth, other evidence-based tools, we're gonna take them from our theories with Patrick Lencioni to our position on debt with Ray Dalio, whoever the great people out there have these principles or even products, we're going to adopt them. Mm-hmm. We don't want to waste our time on trying to create stuff. We want to spend our time in helping and changing behavior and cultivating change. So I love what you said, because we have that because that's one of the tools, but that's not the thing we're about. We're about that cultivating change. And
that's been the guiding star, right?
It has.
It's been what can we do to help people cultivate a deeper sense of meaning and purpose and happiness in life? And let's find the answers. And if we can't find an answer, let's create one.
Well, and I was just thinking too, as Kim was talking, knowledge really is so powerful. I think once we start to realize how just a little bit of education, a little bit of practice, and a little bit of just learning starts to expand, again, the physical capacity, but the mental capacity and the spiritual capacity. Rather than sit there and tell me what to do, tell me what to eat, tell me where I should go, what are all the things. But when we take that minute to be proactive ourselves, it starts to increase, and then it starts to get rolling faster and faster. And then next thing you know, you love your lifestyle rather than feeling weighed down by it. And that really is what I love about this lifestyle that Ampelis is really seeking after for everybody, no matter what our weakness is, no matter what angle we're coming at.
The suspicion to whoever's the listener, whoever's watching, is, it's margin, it's profit, is this is to make money. Robbie makes the great comment, because of course he's hung with me for a long time, which is no mission, no margin. I mean, no margin, no mission. You got to have margin or there's no mission. And what we're not trying to do is just focus on margin. We're so mission driven that it's, it's taken us to a whole nother level of what we're trying to do. But at the end of the day, It's how we make an impact
Yeah.
on the individual person.
And that's like in Tana, so many people come to Tana and are like, I just want a meal plan. Can you just tell me what to eat? Like, just give me a meal plan and I'll just do that. She's like, no, I'm going to teach you how to fish, right? Like, I'm going to teach you the principles of nutrition so that you don't even need a meal plan.
Yes.
And I feel like that's the same with Ampelis. Like, people are like, can I just take this? Or can I just have this? And we're like, okay, we're going to get there, but let us teach you the principles so that you can live your best life. Because we don't know what that is, but we believe you have it. And we're going to teach you some principles that are going to take you there, but you get to go enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
Love that.
Well said.
I'm so excited about that part of what we're trying to do right now. And I think it hopefully will really support people in experiencing the change that, again, is innate within them. Like just having a community, you talked about that earlier, creating a community. When people, and this episode conversation probably feels more like a commercial than other podcasts will, because we're trying to just lay the foundation of what we're doing and why we're doing this and what these conversations are going to be about. But as people enter into that gateway of a nutritional product, having access to all those conversations and a community that's there, I just think it's different. And that's what we hope. We hope it is different. And we hope it does help create movement and change for people in new ways. So, Tana, fact or fiction question.
Okay.
There's this idea, and we've heard it as we've entered into this space a little bit, that multivitamins and supplements, they just flush right through your system. You don't even get any benefit from them. It's kind of like a feel good, maybe not a lot of science behind it. Fact or fiction?
Sorry to be the guy who says it, but the expensive urine creation.
Urine problem.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. It's a total fiction, I believe, because I think the purpose of these things that we flush down the toilet are the waste products. If you take a product and your body needs it, it knows exactly what to do with it. And so, there's that talk about it. And there can be some that might be a waste when you get into having too much of one particular thing. But I believe that supplements have a place, especially in the world today, where even just take magnesium alone. Our magnesium in our food is 75% less than it was 20 years ago. So if we don't supplement with magnesium, just one simple one right off the bat, we're losing metabolic functions. So to say that, sometimes these are just getting wasted or flush down the toilet is incorrect, I think. I think that there is a place and a time and a quantity and a quality to be able to take to see a lasting change. And our body knows what to do. That's the beautiful part. We don't even have to be perfect all the time in taking it or in, this plan or whatever, because grace comes in. Our bodies are incredible. They know exactly what to do. They know what to get rid of. They know what to absorb, and they can take care of themselves when we take care of them. So anyways, I think for sure
I was
it's
listening
great.
to an interview with Mark Hyman, Dr. Mark
Yes.
Hyman, and he
fantastic.
cited this study. It was 2024 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, and they looked at this daily multivitamin supplementation in this double-blinded control study, and they saw 2 years later, they followed this group, and they saw a significant impact in cognition and memory and recall, delaying kind of basically the cognitive decline of aging in the group that took the multivitamins. So that combined with other studies that are out there, there's good data to say that if you take the right supplements, some of them do come out. They flush through your system.
Anything extra it doesn't need.
But that doesn't mean your body's not using it, and a lot of the stuff that comes out, they're water-soluble vitamins, for example, but that doesn't mean that your body hasn't benefited from them before it flushes them into the system in the ways that it needs to. So
would you say, Tana, if you did increase the absorption rate, if you did increase the way that they work together, that you're going to turbo the benefits of
1,000%. They work together, especially those whole food ones that are not synthetic. They have those cofactors and those enzymes. So when you just by itself maybe take a vitamin C, it only can do so much until you add healthy fats, until you start to add some movement in the muscles. Everything works together. Supplements also work together. There are synergistic effects that happen. And I think that's the beautiful part about Core is that we picked the best of the best. And again, I'm not trying to sound like an ad, but just truth that they work together massively.
That's why that whole food focus was so fun to learn about, because learning about how most of now I look at these packages of all the vitamins, many of them I've taken and I felt like they benefited me, frankly. But I now know to look for where there's synthetic isolate forms of vitamins that are just, somebody did an analogy that I heard, and it was like, imagine Michael Jordan who's the best basketball player ever.
Yeah.
But if you put him against a team of 5 where you've got somebody in each position and that team was working together against just Michael Jordan, the other team's going to win. Michael Jordan can't compete against 5 other great basketball players. And that's kind of like the cofactor issue that you get when you take a whole food source of these vitamins, that these other things that help your body use it and recognize it the right way. So I'm excited for what that can do for people.
Me too.
So a couple more questions just to round out the conversation for today. One is, Lon, there's this movement of nutritional psychiatry that's gaining steam. They're starting to really formalize some professional societies around the idea, and I'd love to just hear your reflections on that just briefly, and then what's motivating to you about that movement, and what's promising about that movement as we continue to invest in outpatient clinics and clinical patient care.
Yeah. When you ask a question like that, the answer has to be really sophisticated, like I have all this great understanding. I've studied it for all these years. I really haven't. It comes down to something very simple. When I was a kid, I'll never forget, my brother was driving a Chevelle, car, and it was hot, and he had this good looking girl, and I'm looking at him, but driving down the street, and all of a sudden it backfired, and it was kind of an awesome looking vehicle. And someone next to him said, "Where'd he buy his fuel? What's he burning inside his car?" And a mechanic would ask that, and did ask that when I was a boy, about an engine, and you'd think it's so obvious what fuel you're putting in your body. And so although we're dealing with psychologists and psychiatrists and dealing with the brain and mental health, it seems such a natural aha, the serendipitous awakening to say, what fuel are you putting inside you? So maybe more innate that when I heard about this whole area of nutritional psychiatry, I thought, that makes so much sense. And then we know the science about the vagus nerve and how it's together with the brain and the stomach.
The gut-brain axis.
Yeah, when it very first starts as an embryo, and how there is that interconnection between mind and stomach. I go to a simple analogy such as, why did my stomach get butterflies when I'm batting? Why does that affect my brain when I was up and it was 2 outs and the bases were loaded and I was the guy at the plate? There's definitely a connection. I mean, it's again, goes back to this innate side of the creator and our body. And so anyway, now there's a science, it's emerging, it's blossoming at a real velocity about the connection between the brain and the stomach with, of course, overall health. And we see it. I was looking at a few statistics, and again, because of HIP, I don't know who these people were, but I was just asking some of the questions about people, again, on their nutrition coming into the clinics. And there's this one discussion I was having. They said, yeah, he starts his day with Rockstar, and, and he gets up, he only gets about 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and then he eats yada, 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 yada. And I'm thinking, I'm just reading this and I'm feeling like mentally ill. I mean, how could there not be a connection? So what's happening in the science right now is there are people actually going through it, actual degrees of psychiatry, and it's in nutritional psychiatry versus trying to apply all the SSRIs, all the chemicals, everything else is supposed to aid people who are suffering seriously with the problems that we know of all the various DSM classifications, specifically anxiety and depression. So it's emerging, and there is a school that's more of an integrative health medicine university that's being created in Bentonville, Arkansas. We have a son in Bentonville who's a physician who's going to be an adjunct professor. Is pretty excited, but it's the Alice L. Walton School of Medicine. And she, as you know, is the daughter of Sam Walton. She actually is the wealthiest woman on the planet Earth. But watching what she's doing in this integrative model, but a big part of it will be mental health.
Wow.
And it's that connection to brain and gut. So I know very little about it, but I'm sure studying
good.
it.
And it's kind of intuitive, right? Like
I
had a conversation with a cousin who's a physician last week, and just talking about some of these ideas and things that were going on. He said, it's so refreshing because so many parts of medicine, including in mental health, what we do is, he wasn't dissing, like, we're not anti-medicine in any way, but he was just saying so much of what we do, they're just Band-Aids. They're just Band-Aids, whether even things that we do at our clinic, and we get great outcomes with TMS and medication and other things. And I see those as a bridge to the things that will really help somebody feel healthy and whole, and a deep sense of meaning and purpose and happiness and energy. Those things get you feeling good enough to where you can engage in these other things that again, activate the body's innate ability to feel those ways, which I think we were created to feel.
Yeah.
And so, but it's interesting too. You start to correlate some of the statistics that are out there with the mental health rates that we see are just alarming, or, the obesity rates, or the average pace at which kids can run the mile now compared to the 1970s, all these things. There's correlation between all of these things.
Yeah.
And I would love, as now the three of us were talking before we started recording, we all have teenagers that are about to launch into the adulthood, into the world. Tana and I have graduates that are just finishing high school, going into college. Kim next year will. I'd love to hear you two, Tana and Kim, just reflect on what advice you have or reflections you have about the role of nutrition for young people who are now entering into that new and stressful world of making big decisions in college, or whether they're doing service work and missions, other things like that. What role does nutrition play, and how do you think about counseling your kids?
Go for it, Tana.
Oh man, I know. I think it's actually becoming more and more critical. Not because the topics change, not because the science is different, but because of what they're being exposed to. I think they have not only distractions that are increasing around them, but also the food quality is decreasing all around them. And so anymore, it's not just like, making sure they have a balanced meal, but it's making sure that some of those things that are actually destroying their health are limited, right? You don't ever want to cut anything out, because then they start to, think, oh, I can't have that. And then you create some other psychological issues. But I think it's being aware of what some things are causing problems, and then just trying to replace them, right? And just really being aware of what's around us and what can we do to improve the environment, and just empowering them with knowledge, making better choices. It's easy if they know. If they don't know, it gets confusing. And so even in our home, we're just little things of like understanding. I love that you have a child that's like, what does a blueberry do in my body? Making them curious about those kinds of things. I have 4 daughters. They want to know how to get the best skin and, different things, what to make their hair grow. And it's just a matter of a little bit of education. And so I think that's one of the most important things to do, is just tell them what the good and the bad are as far as options, and let them kind of choose for themselves too. I think nobody really makes a change until it becomes their idea. So again, if they have the knowledge, information, they want it. They really do. They seek after it, but knowing who to trust is one of the biggest problems. So education is critical, I think.
Love it. Love it. And I would just echo, I think you talked about how it can be overwhelming to think about all the details. And I feel that way when I'm on social media and they're like, you have to get this much protein and you have to get this. And I love, that's why I love our principles of simplicity.
Yeah.
To say, look at your options and choose the best one.
Yeah.
And your body will take care of itself. Just honor your body. Eat the food, eat the fruits, eat the vegetables, just even if they're frozen, or even if, just really trying to simplify the principles of health for them. I mean, this is silly, but we had a lesson, but I sat my kids down. I was like, do you even know what processed food is?
Yeah.
Do you know what ultra processed food is? I just learned, do you know what I mean? There are so many things, let's think about walking through the grocery store. What would be a good option? And having them come with you and learn these things, shop with you, look at things with you. And obviously they learn a lot by watching us. How are we treating our bodies? How do we talk about our bodies? But I'm super hopeful about it, because I think that at that time in their life, they want to own it. They want to make those choices for themselves. I think about my little girl in her little sling. She's like, no, Mom, I'm going to put this on all by myself with one arm. She's going to figure it out. But we have to let them,
like her mother.
we have to let them.
To be their idea.
We have to allow them to make. Even when they come home with a tummy ache from eating all the junk, we recognize it, right? Oh, that's funny. What did you eat today? Or, okay, let's go through that. Oh, what do you think did that? Allowing this laboratory in our homes to learning. I just think, and for me, I had to learn the principles for myself. A lot of them came from Tana, and now it's just a matter of knowing how to facilitate it and keeping it simple within your home.
I love that idea of education, and both for the parent and the child, right?
Yes.
From the parent perspective, your point, to lift somebody, you have to stand on higher ground.
Yeah. Oh, it's so
And
good.
so you've got to educate yourself
Yep.
and then empower these kids with education. But it's kind of the ethos of the moment. You know, you think about all the news right now around processed foods and the whole Maha movement.
Food dyes and colors.
And
yeah.
highly processed. I mean, should I cold plunge or should I sauna or should I do both?
Yeah.
Should I,
We do both.
Yeah, do both. Those are good things. Those happen to be really good things. Should I eat meat? Should I not eat meat? Some
Yeah.
meats are good. Some meats are not good.
Totally.
Like
yeah.
real milk or almond milk.
Yeah.
Like there's just like all these things that are so much a part of the conversation now. They weren't when I was a kid. It's just like we ate what we ate. And
Do you know, you're interesting. Of course, your children are that age. My children are now that age, meaning your age, having these children. So as a grandpa, can I be a grandpa for just a minute?
Love it.
Knowledge is vital. Information, critical.
Mhm.
But I also think what is just vital and critical and maybe paramount is that they see those who have not had or those who have used false knowledge and what the result has been. The old adage, that by our fruit, by the fruit, we'll know
Yeah.
them. By the results of living a specific way, you can see, who they are. And sometimes we get off on this path and we think it's complicated, but as you said, it's really not that. What's that poem? With thoughtless and impatient hands, I've quoted this many times, with thoughtless and impatient hands, we tangle up the plans the Lord has wrought.
Mm.
And when we cry in pain, he saith, be quiet, man, while I untie the knot. There are a lot of knots out there that he's ready really to untie if we're just quiet, look at the results, find the fruit, get back to the basics.
Beautiful.
Very simple.
Yeah.
okay, so can we wrap up maybe, Lon, with one last question for you? And then
Yeah.
if you have a one simple actionable takeaway for today, I'd love you guys to be pondering that while I ask Lon this question. But just what advice, we've been about this behavior change business for a bunch of years at this point. What advice do you have for people who are looking at this? They're feeling overwhelmed by all this information and this discussion about health and nutrition and mental health. What should I do? What should I do? I need to change this. I need to change that. What advice do you have for people that are embarking on a period of change that's needed in their life?
Robbie, maybe to use an analogy, I just finished just building a home. And the home, fortunately or unfortunately, has lots of stairs. And say, why do you have stairs at your age? You're going to be able to go up them, and I will. But it's fascinating when we're trying to illustrate or even describe what we're seeing. You really can't see it unless you go to those stairs and say every stair is made up of a riser and a tread. A riser and a tread. And maybe for someone, that riser and the tread might be nutrition. Maybe it might be overcoming a false concept. But once they go up that riser and go on another stair, and up a riser and another stair, they'll have a different view of the problem. They'll see it with different perspective. I hope that the simple takeaways that we provide give people a different view if they apply themselves, have action, go up the riser, get on that next tread, and see it a little bit better. They will be able to make better decisions, and they will change. Fruit will be the result of just taking away those nuggets from this podcast. That's number one. Number two, there's a story I was told a long time ago, about a farmer who saw his grain laying down, and his son came to him and he said, look, if we did this and this, we could get more grain, and we wouldn't have this grain laying down. And he didn't understand the grain was laying down because the head of the grain had so much wheat in it. And this humped over little father said, okay, maybe we'll think and take your advice one day. And with his grain lying down, he walked off. And it's that sometimes we don't see the wisdom that is out there. And I hope that we're not just distributing knowledge, but we're distributing wisdom. Because that Chinese proverb, which is, if you want to be rich, grow grain. If you want to be wealthy, grow men and women. And I just want to hope that this grows men and women to make some changes that are most meaningful. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, thanks.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How about rapid fire? One actionable takeaway. We'll call it ideas in action. And we haven't gotten in too deep in any specific topic today because this is foundational, but we'll hopefully conclude each conversation in the podcast with an idea in action. That's one tangible thing somebody can take away and do. So any insights, one or both of you?
You want to go first?
Sure. As I was thinking about what my takeaway, like really briefly, just thinking about Ampelis and what we're doing, I would hope that people understand that change is possible in any circumstance. It truly is possible. And I know that there are so many who feel very hopeless right now and feel very much stuck, damned. Their progress is just, they don't know where to go and what to do. And that can be a horrible feeling. But I hope that all of the tools that we have mean change is possible. And so my actionable step would be to go outside and to spend just anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes looking at the sky and telling yourself change is possible. Whatever you're dealing with, whatever you're thinking, just know you can come out of this. You can change and things can be brighter. And so that would be my actionable step, is to get outside, look up in the sky and repeat after yourself, change is possible, and remind yourself of that truth.
So
Great.
beautiful.
I love it.
I know. I'll keep mine rapid fire. Drink water and move. If I had to simplify in 2 things,
Drink
that would
water,
be
water,
it. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into more of those with time, but I think that sometimes we actually don't age because of time. We age because we stop moving and stop caring. So keep it simple.
I love it.
Love it.
I would say we're getting like 4 ideas in action, or 3 today.
I know.
This is starting.
Sorry, I threw out a couple.
No, you gave one. You gave one. I'm gonna give one.
Yeah.
Mine is just going on the road that we've been traveling and seeing all the different issues we've been trying to help people with, and people that feel stuck, or they feel low energy, or they feel brain fog, or they're dealing with depression and anxiety or whatever. That's really hard. And the thing that has been an aha moment for me over the past probably 14, 13 months has been start with a little supplementation. Go purchase a great multivitamin, maybe vitamin D and omega-3 and magnesium. And so if you get those vitamin, make sure you got vitamin D, omega-3s, and magnesium. That's 4 things, but it's one action item. And we'll provide that in one place. So it is one with Core 7. But I mean, that really will help just give you enough energy where you can start to engage, clear up the mental fog, have a little more energy, and start to then be more hopeful and engage in some of these other things that are just take a little bit of overcoming inertia. So multivitamins are worth it.
Well said.
Okay. So thanks for taking time to do this today. We're excited about the conversations that we'll have as part of this Core Conversations podcast. We're going to get deep in different topics that will be more focused in the future. We'll go deep on different nutritional topics, different topics related to sleep and movement and mindfulness and meaning and purpose, all these things that comprise our collective journey for happiness and purpose and meaning. So we're excited about the journey. We hope that you'll listen. We hope that you'll engage and ask questions. Yeah. We'll respond if you do ask questions.
Absolutely.
So please do engage, and please join us in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Robbie.
Thanks so much.
Yep.
Good morning. For the first day in a long time, don't feel like watching from the sidelines. Yeah, I'm waking with the sunrise. Get a taste of the daylight. This time I'ma live it up. Sing it out at the top of my